general election. But you're 100% right. And like I said, most importantly, these guys have the privilege of having the mainstream liberal media on their side, where they're able to go out there and paint us as their Uncle Toms and as props for the GOP, and as working with the other side or the enemy. They have the privilege of having the mainstream media in their pocket to allow them to say these kind of things about other Americans who are just exercising their free will and free right, to believe in whatever principles and ideas that they want to, and specifically for us, who are just literally trying to try something differently than we've done in the last 100 years. We're saying we're going to do something different. We should be celebrated. Oh, wow, these guys are actually deciding that instead of voting for the same politicians that continue to control their communities in poverty and crime, they're actually going to vote for a different politician who doesn't reside over the poverty and the crime. Wow.
You made an earlier comment in the first half hour that this is an amazing opportunity that may not have gotten here had not OMB, the Orange Man Bad, President Trump, gotten into office. It's a massive opening, an incredible opportunity. So let's focus a little bit more before we go. We got about 10 more minutes before the top of the hour. You're in Nevada. You're running as a Republican for the 4th District for Congress in Nevada. What do you see as some of the things that in your district, your area, you need or want to address or embrace for the people that you represent?
Well, I think specifically term limits is something that I believe all Americans, including Nevadans, are for, just because of the fact that the people who currently represent us don't represent us, as I always speak about. They've been in Washington too long. They are detached from the everyday lives of Nevadans, and so we need a change in that area. The other thing that specifically hits home here in Nevada hard that President Trump has advocated from day one about is immigration reform. And just his rhetoric alone has changed lives dramatically here in Nevada, just on the fact that he was willing to be unapologetic about it and talk about how these problems are inadvertently hurting a lot of communities, especially Nevada. I mean, there was recently the incident in Mississippi where the plant was raided by ICE.
Yes.
And the very next day, once all those people were gone, the very next day, a bunch of Americans in line getting the job. Right.
Yeah,
and I think specifically with a lot of black Americans.
But wasn't that the exact opposite? That's 180 degrees excuse me, of what we've been told by the Democrats and leftists for so long. Americans are not going to take these jobs.
Exactly.
They're full of, I'm sorry, you're full of crap. Perfect case in point right there.
It's the most ridiculous, and you believe it or not, that's why I said college made me conservative. I took an immigration class, and they literally said that no one wants those jobs. No, that's literally what they say. I don't even know how that's an argument. That no one wants. So of course, someone wants those jobs. And that's a 100. Like you said, that's 100% proof that many Americans want that job. My last, just really big, topic that I think really affects Nevadans from the heart is veterans transition. Nevada is one of the largest states for housing veterans in America.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
It's one of the top 3. I believe we were ranked 4th now. But many veterans make Nevada their home once they're done with the military. I have a bill specifically aimed at veterans transition to help us better assimilate back into, normal civilian society. I personally, when I got out of military, struggled with PTSD, and there was not any resources available to assist me. It wasn't mandatory. When I got off the plane from Iraq, I was in the infantry, got off the plane. They said, "Are you crazy? Are you this? Are you that?" Of course, I said, no. But my veterans transition bill would make it mandatory for mental health counseling for all those who go to combat for 6 months to a year when they return. My other transition part of the bill would be mandatory 2 years of the National Guard that's automatically embedded in your contract when you first sign. Now, remember, the National Guard is only 1 weekend out of a month.
Right.
So National Guard, Army Reserve. I would make it 3 weekends out of a month. That way, you easily assimilate back into society. So, for example, when my situation, I would have went and worked at the Caesars Palace as a casino host Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends, I would went and played soldier again, back where I had that structure. A lot of my battle buddies, right? You would have people that have been through the same things you've been through. So it would slowly assimilate you back into society versus you being in combat one day, you're getting shot at, blown up, and the next day you're out here buying cereal, right? It's just a huge dramatic extreme that I think it's too extreme for most people to handle. And that's why you have so many veterans still right now committing suicide. Still 22 a day, which is way too high. And I believe this bill, especially the National Guard, Army Reserve part of it, in my opinion, would definitely, and I've talked to many, many veterans who agree with me, would help us assimilate easier back into American society.
It sounds to me like you've got some great plans. Talk to me a little bit. What do we got? We got about 5 minutes left. And I'm talking to Leo Dunson, Republican candidate for Nevada's 4th Congressional District. Let's talk about your competition. I don't really want to talk about them, but I want to talk about your ability to defeat them and what you offer that they don't, so that people that maybe just picked up the show right now can say, okay, I dig this guy, Leo Dunson. That's why I want to vote for him.
Yeah, well, as I've mentioned, in my bio and at the beginning, I'm running as a representative of the people, not necessarily to lead the people. I think for too long we've had politicians who, graduated, magna cum laude, who've had the perfect record. I've owned all these businesses. I've had this great life, and I still have this great life. And, I just left, Harvard yesterday, so vote for me. And I just feel like the average American, we're not perfect. None of us is perfect. And the only way that we're ever going to have the true representation that we want in Congress is if we elect people who is representative of where we are at today. So it doesn't make any sense to elect somebody to Congress with an 800 credit score to deal with these different FICO companies if they've never even been in the low 600s, if they don't understand that situation. I just think that for too often, there's some perfect counties out there. Many of them are right outside of Washington, D.C. So maybe we can send some of those people right up there. But I think in the rest of America, in the heart of America, we need some average, everyday Joe the plumbers, and that's who I am. As far as my competition, I think they're great people. I don't have anything against them. I just believe that I'm a better representation of Nevada and of the current everyday American, and my experience in the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of American life, I believe makes me the best candidate for this job.
If you get the opportunity, Leo Dunson, tell me, please, that you'll do something with regard to a bill, even if you have to write it yourself, that says whatever it is that we pass in Congress applies to everyone. It's a blanket application. No exemptions, no touchbacks, no erases. It's not, everything is good for you, but I'll have my own special stuff. If Congress passes a bill, it applies to everybody. Congress, right. House, Senate, staff, everybody. You got it.
Right. I am 100% with you on that, BZ. I talk all the time about the health care bill and how the congressmen and women wrote themselves out of the bill so they didn't have to have Obamacare. And it goes back to what I said about us electing people from the elite class. Hey, I just graduated from Harvard yesterday. Look, I'm not no shade at Harvard. I'm sure it's a great school. But I'm just saying it only, I think it said 0.003% of the population graduates from there. And almost 90% of them are the ones who represented us in Congress. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense, And I just think that we need some average Joe the plumbers up there, a guy that just got out of high school yesterday. I mean, that's just what I believe the founding fathers meant when they wanted a perfect union and a true representation of America. When they wanted representatives, that's what I think they wanted. So that's what I would be.
Okay, I got to mention this. We got about a minute and a half left, folks. In Nevada, vote for Leo Dunson. Leo, L-E-O, Dunson, D-U-N-S-O-N. His website is leodunson.com, leodunson.com. Go there quick like a bunny. Do what I did. See over there, if you're on his site, go to the upper right portion of his website right there. See where it says donate? Click on that. Throw him a 5, throw him 10, throw him 100, throw him 50, throw him 20. But do it. Support him so that he can keep Nevada from going purple, move it back red, and let's put some common sense in Congress. Like he said, man, this is the perfect opportunity to do it. Leo Dunson, thank you ever so kindly for being on the show tonight. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, BZ, and I would love to come back again right before the election. Thank you so much, sir.
You know what? I am going to take you up on that. Let's see, June 9th. So how about like early May?
Yep, that would be perfect.
Okay.
I'll let you know where we are.
Okay. I would love to do that. I would love to have an update because between now and then, between now and May, my guess is you're going to be a busy guy.
Oh, yeah. I just hired some financiers and campaign finance people out of D.C., so, yeah, I'm going to be busy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To say the least.
You will. Leo Dunson, thank you very, very much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it, sir. Thanks for taking the time to be here, and all the best wishes for your campaign. And I hope I get to talk to you 2 more times. I hope I get to talk to you in May, yeah, and then I hope I get to talk to you like a week, like the second or third week in June when you're on the show and I say, hey, welcome to freshman Congressman Leo Dunson. Right.
That's what we're hoping. That is definitely where we're looking for sure.
Well, thank you again, sir, and I really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. That was Leo Dunson. We're going to take a break. Before we take a break, I had an issue, but by the power vested in me due to editing and Audacity, I'll be able to piece these things together. But as Comcast is wont to do from time to time, it decided to go away. So what I have to do is I have to restart everything, which is what I did. And when I come back after the break, we're going to talk to Kaiser Schuff, and we're going to talk to Kate Krasutsky, who has been in chat all along. And we're going to talk about the Facebook page that they have started. And we're going to talk about Virginia. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of political issues that impact you directly and keep you safe and free and full of liberty right here in the United States of America. I am BZ. I am the Bloviating Zeppelin. You are in the saloon, the BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show on SHR Media in the SHR Media studios at shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are back. It's the second hour of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. We're going to do something a little bit different. Because of all the things that occurred recently this past week, and especially on Monday, when everyone was swearing that it was going to be Armageddon. And Armageddon didn't happen. It didn't appear. I thought that I'd get the return of somebody that I've spoken to a number of times here, and then also invite somebody new whose Facebook page I recently joined. So I want to check and make sure. Kaiser Schuff, do I have you there right now? Kaiser, are you there? Okay, it indicates that you're on. How about Kate? Are you there? Well, I heard somebody there for a second. Okay, let me try this. Uno más. I will try this again. Okay. There we go. Kate, I hear you.
Hello?
Kate, are you there?
Hello?
Kaiser, are you there? Hello, let's try it again.
No, I'm not. Hello?
Okay, can you hear me now, Kate?
I can hear you now.
If you call enough on these contraptions, eventually you get people. Kaiser, do I have you on your end? Okay, let's try Kaiser. Uno más. And see if I can grab him. How about now? Kaiser, do I have you, sir? Okay. This is maddening.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, uh-oh is right. Okay. Tell you what. Kate, let me at least talk to you here for a second.
Absolutely.
You've started a new Facebook page. And if I don't do anything else here tonight except bring the Facebook page to new people, I would love to do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
and if Kaiser can't come on, then we can still do a show.
Okay, we'll try to do it as best we can. Kaiser, I don't know why I am not getting you, my friend. Because I can hear you. I can hear the phone ring. There it is. It's ringing. Well, you know what? Let me try Plan B. Okay, tell you what. Kate, while I'm trying Plan B, you started a new Facebook page, and it's called Survive, Thrive, Stay Alive. It's a private group. You have to be invited to come in, and then you have to, obey the group rules of the page that you created. So while I try a Plan B with Kaiser, can you tell people what the page is about and what was your motivation in starting it?
Well, first off, my motivation for starting the page was there are a lot of, quote, survival, unquote, pages out there, and there's a lot of doomsdayers, but they do not hit every scenario or every aspect. I mean, what if there's a hurricane? What if there's a tornado? What if there's flooding? You're snowed in. A lot of these things are not covered. They think, oh my gosh, it's doomsday, Armageddon, the UN's going to come in and blow everybody up. Let's train for that. Well, instead of, quote, training, unquote, for that, why don't we prepare for the 72 hours or the week or the 2 weeks that you could be snowed in, or there's a tornado and you lose your home? The page is for surviving any scenario or situation, thriving through that, and staying alive to be able to come out on the other end, not only talk about it, but possibly help others in the same type of situation maybe later on. God forbid that should happen.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. The wireless customer.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's a page that has simple ways to survive in diverse scenarios. There's people on the page that have years of experience. We don't believe in experts because, well, there are no experts. X is a has-been and expert is a drip under pressure. So there's also people on the page that want to learn. They do not know how to survive or prepare. So this page helps them. If you go to the announcement section of the page, you'll see all of the lessons that I've put on and several lessons that other people have contributed to the page. So you don't have to scroll through the whole page to find the lessons. It's a private page, like you said, and it's by invitation only. So if you have friends that are on the page, or you know somebody like Kaiser or myself, you or whatever, contact us, and we'll see about sending you an invitation to the page.
So basically, they would just go to Facebook, go to the page, and for those of you who just tuned in, survive, thrive, stay alive. What you ask for an application there, or you have to be pre-sponsored by somebody like Kaiser or somebody else who's a member.
You have to be pre-sponsored by someone who is a member.
Okay. All right.
And the reason why we're doing that is because there's a lot of people on the page who enjoy their anonymity. They like their privacy. And we screen everyone who is invited before they're on the page. And we're just a little family. Right now we have a little over 350-something members on the page, but most everyone on the page are active. They contribute something, they say something. One guy, he doesn't have any experience. So every morning it comes on and he says, "Good morning, everyone." That's his contribution for now.
Okay. Let's try it. Kaiser, are you there? Can I hear you?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you fine. I could hear you when you were calling, too.
Oh.
I could hear both of you. Yeah, it was funny. But
beautiful.
First, on the Second Amendment thing, look, I was getting a lot of the same intel other people were getting, that Virginia was a setup. Even the state senator said it was a setup the night before. And I just believe that with the mass amount of people they had, I think they were having a hard time to activate it. And that's a good thing. I have never been more happy to be wrong, folks. And I always lead with my mistakes. So before we go any further, I didn't spread fear porn, but I definitely wasn't going to get cricked twice, because all the signs, they had already built the kettling in. Everything showed that they were going to try to do something there. And I've seen it before.
I remember the article that you're talking about. I can't find it exactly yet, but I remember there was a Virginia senator, somebody like that, who was saying, be careful, because we think that the bulk of this is an attempt to have someone do something stupid, and then we can do something equally stupid in return. And so I got to ask you, Kate, and I got to ask you, Kaiser. We know about Northam. We know how Virginia got to be where it is, and we can talk about that as well. But do you guys think that in some fashion it was an attempt by Northam and people like him, sympathizers, etc., to see if we would bite and pop off, and it would simply illustrate, okay, once again, all these Second Amendment people are lunatics?
Absolutely. I also look at it like this was also their simple way of facial recognition. What happened in Virginia was law-abiding citizens showed up, and it was peaceful, but if something would have happened, there were thousands of guns there. They cannot take out people collectively. They have to do it separately. So there was facial recognition. We have confirmation that there were facial recognition cameras literally on every corner and at the Capitol. So every person that was there that did not have their face covered had their face documented in facial recognition. Now, what they do with that information, I do not know. But they can go from house to house now, or pull a person over for whatever reason, and they can pick up somebody or deal with somebody one person at a time as opposed to collectively. That's my thought.
Okay. Good news or bad news?
Good news or bad news on?
Anything. Well, I'm going to talk about LPR for just a second. So you guys want the good news or the bad news? Because I will tell you straight up.
Good news.
Give us the... Yeah, good news is good.
Good news. The good news is that some jurisdictions that are using LPR are keeping that information to themselves. That's the only good news you're going to get. Now, LPR, license plate recognition, which is an offshoot of the facial recognition, which, by the way, is not that reliable, but it's essentially the same technology. LPR technology you can find on the roof racks of police cars. So if you see these funny little boxes, little clear boxes on the roof racks of police cars, 4 of them, 2 on each side, pointing out, that's LPR technology. Now, I will tell you about LPR technology, and my guess would be that it's going to be that way for any facial recognition system. The technology just hasn't yet caught up to LPR yet, because LPR is easier to read. Just when all sorts of law enforcement agencies initially said that there would be no sharing of LPR technology, trying to assuage the people that had privacy concerns, one of the first things I discovered is, oh yeah, they're sharing the shit out of LPR technology. all around. Now, let me talk about the Stingray situation. I'm sure you guys are already well aware of with regarding to Stingrays.
Yeah, they had Stingray vehicles there. You can see them in a lot of the shots.
That was shared rampantly. So if there were facial recognition stations all around there, and I don't know if anybody has braced Virginia on the utilization of that technology, and I don't know what the laws are for LPR facial recognition in Virginia. My guess would be you can count on all of that to be shared. Now, initially, it will be something similar to, no, we're not going to do that. And then after you've forgotten for a while, yes, it will be shared. And my thought to you is, if someone is telling you that LPR or facial recognition information is not being shared, then I believe they're lying to you.
Oh, I can guarantee it. Look, when I worked for my last federal agency, we had license plate readers, and they went off of course, it was all filtered through text, but it went off of Soundex. And you remember what Soundex was? Anything that was a name close to it would pop up.
Right.
You know, and let's say you have a Christine Brown. It would be Chris Brown. Well, Christine Brown and Chris Brown will still show up as, and let's say Chris Brown's a felon, Christine Brown's not. It'll still give you the felony alert. You understand what I'm saying? Right. I know you do.
Right. And
you get that with facial rec too. The thing that the reason why they use all three of them in conjunction along with those two along with Stingray, is now you have a database from the phones, because it takes everything off your phones, especially these dumb phones, which are smartphones, I guess. I still use a flip phone, but I'll tell you this: they can still jam you with your phone number and all your contacts, everything that's on that physical phone. They now have. And that makes it easier to know if it's Chris Brown or Christine Brown. Here's my 2 cents.
I haven't found the article, but I know that you're correct when you're talking about the senator that was attempting to warn people. What do you guys think, both Kate and Kaiser, was the major takeaway from this, from Monday's rally in Virginia, that Northam did, in my opinion, his very level best to trash? And we'll talk about trash in a second. What do you think is the primary takeaway, other than roughly 30,000 people got there, all armed to the teeth, and the only arrest that occurred was from some Antifa person, an LGBT individual who was all masked up? That's the only arrest there was.
I think two major things were taken away. Not taken away, was two major primary things. Is number one, the Second Amendment people won this round. Number two, the left did not win this round. But the way I see it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is they just waited for this rally to be over so they could go ahead and pass these laws anyway.
Well, yes, and the likes of which they did. The only saving grace, there are a couple of saving graces that I do want to mention. One of the saving graces is that they did not pass the law primarily where there was going to go out and be gun confiscation per se. That one didn't pass. There are some others that did pass very shortly. The other thing that I want to remind everybody of is Second Amendment people were there to demonstrate their rights. I get that. But the other illustration is 30,000 people and nothing happened. The other plus is, you may not know it, folks, but Virginia is a one-term governor state. So whatever happens with Northam during these years with him, he's a one-term dude, and he's gone. Now, what you get to replace him, who knows? But with Virginia, folks, you also have to remember that Northern Virginia, which went way blue, is bordering essentially, I like to call Northern Virginia, it's nothing more than Baja, D.C.
Yeah.
So you got all the people on the left and all the drones in federal politics come down, and that's how they turned it blue in Virginia. With one caveat that we need to remember. The governorship is one term, that's it, then somebody else. The other point is that their Senate and both of their bodies come in every other year for alternately 60 days only or 30 days only. They're not a full-time body like, God, California is. So they have a limited window in which to conduct all the fuckery that they wish to do. So all is not lost. And I think, Kate, you made an excellent point by saying, we pulled it off. We made a display. I'm sorry, Kaiser, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a commonwealth. The thing about it is, last few elections, it's documented. You're having people on the Democrat side running unopposed in both bodies. And with the, as you called it, the northern Baja of D.C., with that area, that slight blue area, when you look on the map, they have flooded it with illegals. They've turned it into a sanctuary, and they are allowing them to get licenses so they can vote. And so even with the law passed that you needed a license to vote, well, that's fine. Illegals are allowed to have licenses. Boom. And this is just a fact. And, you know, I'd love to be positive that Virginia is going to come back, but, you know, you're having most of these areas, these districts in Virginia, plus the redistricting, they're just not, they don't have the population. A lot of it's rural, and they're not getting out and voting. Plus, you're not even having the Republican Party trying to challenge in the state. And it's similar to what goes on in California. You know, I'm sure you know all about that bastion down in Sacramento.
Well, I'm in Sacramento.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So how many of those places are run unopposed?
Well, that's why I'm really curious to talk to this guy Eric Ricard next Thursday, who's going to be running for California Assembly, a Republican running in this district in South Sacramento in Elk Grove. Boy, this dude is going to need all the help he can. Like I said, the good thing about Virginia is that big bill that everyone was anticipating, SB 16, that got killed. That got canceled. So I say there's something to be said for making sure that your voice is heard. Now, whether that applies to a massive rally of 30,000 people or other ways, it would appear that some voices were heard. But 3 gun bills just passed in the Virginia Senate, and they're done. Now, they don't deal with gun confiscation, but SB 35 in Virginia, that authorizes any locality to prohibit the possession of firearms and ammunition in public spaces during permitted events or events that would otherwise require a permit pass. SB 69 prohibits anybody who is not a licensed firearms dealer with an FFL from purchasing more than one handgun within a 30-day period. It's a Class 1 misdemeanor, whatever that happens to be. And then SB 70 requires background checks for any firearm transfer and directs the state police to set up a process for obtaining a check from a licensed firearms dealer, somebody holding an FFL. So anybody who sells a firearm now in Virginia without a background check, that's a felony. And the person who receives the firearm, that's a Class 1 misdemeanor. So transfers between immediate family members and by its estate administrators or people in shooting ranges are exempted. And it also exempts temporary transfers when, the owner is present and it's necessary to prevent death and bodily injury, etc. So, but that's the frog in the boiling pot. And just look, the reason I talk about California, folks, is because we are the perfect example here in California of what the hell not to do with your state.
That's very true.
And Virginia is starting to step off like California and attempt to become very California-like. Who was the nut recently who said that California is the ideal? California is the state that we should all want to emulate. Wasn't it Bloomberg? I think it might have been Michael Bloomberg who said California is the place you want to be. That's the mindset. That's the mindset we have here. It's just, it's nuts. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the bizarrest thing I ever saw was a friend of mine in California when I was working out in the Southwest. And he stopped by. I was running the range. And anyway, so he stops by to go shooting, brings his AR out. Well, they got this little push button in the middle of the magazine. You got to press it with like a bullet tip to take the magazine out.
Right.
So, and it just was retarded. And I was like, what the heck? And anybody who knows how to turn a tool, i.e. a screwdriver or something, could replace that. So really, they've done nothing physically to hinder somebody from making quick mag changes if they wanted to. A felon would do that. And all they've done is put the restriction on the law-abiding citizen. Why any state would think that's logical and reasonable eludes my mind.
Well,
because, of course, the regular law-abiding citizen's not going to change that out. But the felon, he don't care. He'll change it out in a heartbeat. Your thought?
And those were called bullet buttons here in California. They existed simply to screw with people. Folks, we're not going to do a break, but I am going to remind you of this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And then there was this. I found this. Here's a map that I'm looking at. My video's down, but Virginia Second Amendment sanctuary map. And I'm looking at the state of Virginia. I would say probably 90%, 93% of it is green, indicating that 76 counties have enacted a sanctuary, a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution. There are 8 counties that support a constitutional resolution. There are 7 that are kind of midway. They're not quite sure which way they're going to go. There are only 2 counties in Virginia that have decided that they have denied anything to do with a sanctuary Second Amendment. And then there are 2 counties that have decided they're not going to take any action, any status. And that's the point of being in Virginia. There was, let me see if I can find it now.
Well, while you're trying to find that opens the door to other states as well, because I'm just 2 hours away from Virginia, and in my state, our counties started doing the sanctuary Second Amendment counties as well, and usually whatever happens in Virginia, Kentucky follows.
Okay.
Also, Kaiser brought up and opened the door for felons. Felons do not care. Well, if you look at Attorney Harvey Silvergate's estimate that by dinner time every day, the average person breaks at least 3 federal criminal laws every day. So if a law-abiding citizen is convicted of having a firearm, he is now a convicted felon. Just like Kaiser said, what do they have to lose?
I made the mention about Virginia and the sheriff. There was a sheriff by the name of Richard Vaughn of Grayson County in Virginia. This dude, I think I said in social media yesterday or the day before, this dude has balls that clank to go into Virginia and with everybody else all camoed up, etc., and he makes these statements. You know, and God bless him for doing that. He says if the bills go through as proposed, they will not be enforced in my county. They are unconstitutional.
City or Commonwealth still be. If the bills go through as proposed, they will not be enforced. They're unconstitutional. We support uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Virginia, and that's what we'll do. Outstanding. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. You need tons more people like that who will stand up for these kinds of things. You won't find it in California. Kate, can you find any of those people in Kentucky? Do some of the sheriffs? And you won't. Here's the other difference, folks. And Kate and Kaiser, you tell me if this is true. Chiefs of police are going to wimp out because they're appointed, not elected. The only people you're going to have standing up for the Second Amendment, at least in leftist states like California, are sheriffs. So is that somewhat true in your states?
They're all over the place in my state. The sheriffs will stand up for the people and will not have a problem backing the Constitution. A lot of the sheriffs in my state will be the first ones to say, these laws are unconstitutional. You're not taking guns out of my county.
Yeah, my state of Ohio, the reality is that, like, the big city counties, Cuyahoga, Franklin, Hamilton down there in near Kentucky, Cincinnati, those sheriffs are elected by the people, and of course they've done everything they can to make sure those city population centers are basically, leftist leaning. And so those sheriffs usually tend to be anti-gun. Out of the 88 counties in Ohio, I'd say you could probably get roughly maybe 78 of the counties that would stand, because they're, not, Ohio tends to be a purple state. It depends on who's running, whether it goes blue or it goes red. But usually the sheriffs are like the county I live in. The sheriff has no problem signing off on your paperwork if you want to get a Class 3 license or, tax stamp or SBR or whatever. It's just what our sheriff does here. And there's lots of counties like that. But you try doing that in Franklin, Cuyahoga, or down there in Hamilton, good luck with that. And chiefs of police are appointed. And, of course, they're controlled by a mayor.
That's right.
So all you got to look at is see who the mayor is in what town, and you'll know whether the chief of police can sign off on your paperwork.
And they all have different models. All the cities all have different models. Sometimes they operate from a strong mayor position. Sometimes they operate from a strong city council position. Or sometimes they operate from a strong city manager position. Well, whatever position that is, if it's a remotely leftist area, the chief of police, male, female, immaterial, will dance and hop to the tune of the people that brung them in. It's as simple as that.
That's right, and they will put the edicts down no matter what the ORC says, the Ohio Revised Code. But I'll give you an example. In Ohio, a sheriff has to be notified, and it's under our Constitution if the federal government's going to make, a raid, an arrest, or anything. And there has to be a deputy there with them when they do it. And it's a logical reason. Of course, it's in the Constitution from the founding of Ohio. But the other funny part about it is, once you saw the brilliance of those old-time thinkers before there were cars and stuff, because you started getting home invasions where people were dressed up in agent, vest, and just bursting into people's houses. And so to stem that, sheriffs all around Ohio were like, we will put a deputy with you when you go on a raid. And it stopped just federal service of warrants unless you've let the sheriff know. And, that really is the way it should be. And that's some scary stuff when you think about out-of-control agencies, both federal or state. That's why we have state troopers. We don't have state police. That's illegal under our Constitution. But every year, state troopers try to become state police. If they want to be police in Ohio, I think they still have another 80 hours. They have to take at OPATA, Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy, to become able to be a police officer or a sheriff's deputy. So I honestly am of the opinion the Highway Patrol, because they're very good at their job, enforcement of the highways and whatnot, and especially accident clearances. I don't know why the sheriffs don't just bring them in all as deputies and we get rid of the Highway Patrol, period. And that way they're more accountable instead of having a colonel as their boss in the state that's basically going to be at the beck and call of any governor. And that's the problem there, too. State police, you have both the mayor and the governor of Virginia, of that area, Richmond, and they're in bed together, like snug as a bug in a rug. So, I don't know. I think that's problematic.
There's so many things that I want to talk to you guys about tonight. One of the areas that it appears to be a new movement occurring is in New Mexico. And you would think New Mexico, Arizona, they've got some pretty liberal firearms laws, but now there's a press apparently on New Mexico itself. Responding rather immediately to that press, I found an article where a bunch of New Mexico sheriffs forced lawmakers to abandon a red flag bill, and they are saying that they specifically refuse to enforce unconstitutional laws. And I make mention of a red flag bill because here's what's going to happen in the future. I'm sure the two of you and everybody listening, and if you haven't, I'll explain it, have heard of swatting. So the people, the very same people under red flag laws, depending on how expansive they are, the same people that cry and complain about your Twitter feeds, your posts on Facebook, etc., are going to be the same people that are going to be dropping dimes on you folks if they discover that you have any firearms whatsoever. In California now, it just recently changed so that it's not just a domestic situation where people can complain and for a red flag law, if you're involved in some kind of a domestic violence case, your firearms can be confiscated. Well, heads up, in California, if that happens, your gun's going to be gone from 5 years to forever. Okay, now that's been expanded to schools, teachers, institutions, your employer, and fellow employees. And here's a perfect example of why that shouldn't exist. I found this, where the hell was this? KDVR. Using a red flag law, this woman decided that she was going to file paperwork against the officer who shot and killed her son. Paperwork? Well, she filed a petition and an affidavit for an extreme risk protection order, an ERPO, against the Colorado State University police officer who fatally shot her son in 2017. This has nothing to do with the original thrust and point of a red flag law. But guaranteed, because it's happening already, this is how it's going to mutate to the point where it will be leftists versus conservatives. And if this is allowed to go unchecked, anyone at your work, if they decide that they go into your cubby and you have, I don't know, an NRA calendar on your wall, is going to maybe assume that you have a firearm, and then if you deign to raise your voice at them, you know what comes next. I can think of no reason to expand red flag laws, and in every state that's happening right now, and they will be abused by leftists.
They're setting precedent.
Period.
They are setting precedent.
Indeed. It's rife for abuse.
It is. If my neighbor decides he doesn't like me, he can call the sheriff, or, well, has to be the sheriff where I'm at. He can call the sheriff and he can say, she brandished her gun at me. And I may not even have something on me at the time that I see him. But they can come out and confiscate my gun. Right now, not in Kentucky, but that's what the law basically is telling other people to do.
The intent of the law is an allegation only. You are guilty until proven innocent.
Snitch on your neighbor.
Exactly, and if you're a concealed carry gun owner, here's a little thing I know somebody that this happened to. Luckily, they were able to prove it. Took his phone up and took a picture of dude who was like road raging for whatever reason, right? And the guy just called into the police. Oh, he pulled a gun on me. Well, the police pulled him over. Do you have a gun on you? He's like, yeah. Well, he still had to go to court, still had to get arrested. You know the process, BZ. His day in court comes up, and he's like, it's on my phone. I didn't point a gun at him. I took a video of it, not a phone, or not a picture. And during the video, it's him holding his phone up. But because it was a black phone, you know, that he was lucky. He had a good judge and a good lawyer. And they're like, yeah, that could have been a mistaken thing. So, but still, if that was a red flag law, all your stuff's gone until you prove your innocence. And maybe, like you said, from 3 to 5 to forever years until you get your property back.
Well, in California, that's the way it operates. I'm sorry, Kate, go ahead.
That's okay. When they set the precedent to do that, they're taking away your constitutional right to be innocent before proven guilty.
Yes, we don't operate under Napoleonic law. France does. Mexico does. We don't.
Yeah, we do. Just ask the red flag law.
That's true. Do you find, guys, some correlation, a major umbrella act going on here, where at the same time that there's a massive push to eliminate the ability of people to defend themselves and to remove firearms, there is a concomitant unity in terms of district attorneys, law enforcement officials, and other people, other administrators, refusing to protect individuals. For example, there's a massive rise now in Seattle shootings and fatalities. This is obvious proof that gun control doesn't work. Here's a situation where a guy, an L.A. man, was arrested in the kidnapping of a Fort Bragg teen, and he was released from jail because the DA's office in San Francisco, under DA Chisa Boudin, decided not to keep him. Here's another one in New York. I'll continue with stories for a second or two. Some dude, some thief who robbed 4 banks is freed on New York's no bail policy. Then he knocks over another bank in 24 hours, and he says, oh, I can't believe they let me out. Then in New York, again, New York Democrats block a GOP repeal of the law that releases violent criminals without bail. Then we've got, as I mentioned before, California, spell it with a K, is insane. You got a new San Francisco district attorney, Chisa Boudin, who fires a bunch of prosecutors because he thinks he needs to clean house. I'm not sure that I know for exactly a fact that that's a he. It looks like one. Let me put it that way. So he gets into office, fires multiple prosecutors just in one Friday afternoon. And so he reshapes the office, and he's implementing what he said was his progressive vision just 2 days after being sworn in. So here's an article that I want to read you guys and anybody that's listening. This is from the Philadelphia Inquirer. This is from a guy named Will Bunch. Because this is how leftists look at you. The headline says, call Richmond's MLK Day gun rally what it was, Richmond, Virginia, an outbreak of terrorism on American soil. So leftists think that your ability to celebrate or have a rally asking for people to affirm the Second Amendment means that everybody there is a terrorist. He writes, in 2020, some images of modern America are so shocking that even a nation of political ranters and our incandescent Twitter accounts can be stunned into near numbness. So it was on Monday, not coincidentally, the national holiday to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as first dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of armed, overwhelmingly white men streamed into the grounds of Virginia's state capital in Richmond. It didn't have anything to do with MLK Day. That's Lobby Day. That's the day historically in Virginia, you dumbass, that people come in and attempt to petition the state of Virginia for things that they're looking for in terms of laws. But leftists believe that people who are asking to have the Second Amendment upheld, their Bill of Rights, you're now a terrorist. Kaiser, you're a terrorist. Kate, you're a terrorist.
I always joke around and say if you're not on somebody's watch list, you're not exercising your rights. But in actuality, look, what you're talking about was the district attorney's initiative done by Bloomberg in concert with Soros. And just like all these immigrant safety zones, illegal immigrant, I don't even like using it. They're illegal aliens.
Yeah, they are, exactly.
And by the law of the INA, they're considered an illegal alien. The terminology's never changed. It really disgusts me that they try to lump in legal immigrants and confuse people by calling them illegal immigrants. They're not. They're illegal aliens. But anyway, and we're talking even if they're Northern European. If you're here illegally, you're here illegally. So with that, they made those safe zones. They also wanted to reduce what they call social justice. They wanted to bring social justice to the law. And a prime example would have been Chicago with, what's that actor's name?
Oh, Jussie Smollett.
Yeah, that is one of the DAs, district attorneys, that came in under that. I believe the DA in Baltimore, I believe she was arrested too, or she's standing trial.
Marilyn Mosby.
Yeah. So, I mean, this stuff is just what's going on. And how do you stop people that are throwing around money like it's water? And, you know, if you got two no names running and you're seeing one person's signs everywhere, it gives the illusion to most normal people who are asleep, if they're going to vote, that, wow, this person's really got it together, got a good functioning campaign, got it going on. And so psychologically, you're going to get more of a turnout for that person. That's why you see them put the signs out by highways, all different kinds of places. But, yeah, I'm just not, I don't know how to fight that. I mean, the best way is for Republicans to turn out. And I hope Trump's, honestly, I hope his coattails are long enough to pull a lot of people to the polls this time, because the scam machine on the Democrats are going to be going into hyperdrive this election season, I fear. Your thoughts, Kate?
I agree. The election is going to be rigged, worse than it was in 2016. But I'm getting back to the Constitution and the law of the land, and I have a pocket Constitution in my hand right now, and just let me read this little paragraph right here.
Okay.
The general misconception is that any statute passed by legislatures bearing the appearance of law constitutes the law of the land. The United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement with the Constitution. It is impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid, and it is backed up by 4 United States Supreme Court laws. I see one or two people, if not more, in Virginia being arrested for having firearms that has been now or later illegal to have or to own. And they are going to have to fight this in court. I hope, and it is a big hope, that the courts actually realize that the Constitution is the law of the land. And the statutes that are brought by the legislatures are not laws. They're statutes or mandates. And a lot of people don't understand that.
It's as I said one time, Kate, and I think BZ's heard me say it before, and you might have even too. Federal regulations of firearms. Whole bunch of them, right? But like a musket or a muzzle-loading gun, black powder, is not. It's a non-gun federally, right? But in Ohio, it's still considered a gun. This is how nonsensical it is. And every time you get a regulation, state or federal, and it doesn't, EPA, guns, it matters not. If it's a regulation for something, de facto it is law because it can be enforced by people who carry guns. And that includes your tax, everything that you do in life can be enforced by, if it's the IRS, you have the IRS that will come in with their gun-wielding agents if it gets to that point and arrest you. Take legal possession of your body, your habeas corpus, to bring it to the court. So, anyways, I don't know what the fix is, but Trump's done a good thing. He's gotten rid of a lot of regulations.
Yes,
in that book you mentioned, 3 felonies a day, I think everybody should read that book because that's exactly what it is. And it was set up to do that by design, in my opinion. And your guys' thoughts?
Well, even the most informed citizen cannot predict with any reasonable assurance whether a wide range of seemingly ordinary activities might be regarded by a federal prosecutor as felonies. And to look at that if there's a senator or chief of police or somebody that gets butt hurt against you for any reason and he knows that you're carrying a gun or anything, he can go to a federal prosecutor. He has the authority to do that. And the federal prosecutor can say, you know what, you scratch your back, my back, I'll scratch yours. He can go after a law-abiding citizen who has never had a problem, a squeaky clean slate, and unknowingly commit a felony, and that federal prosecutor can slap them in jail for 3 to 10 years.
I think the good thing about all this is that we have to look at a larger, wider global perspective. And what I mean by that is the reason that the leftists and the Democrats are losing their brains, they're throwing their camshafts, is because they realize if Trump gets a second term, he's already installed, I've said for years, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, if you control education and you control SCOTUS, you control the United States. Leftists control education. They want to control SCOTUS. They're not going to get it, and especially with a second term of Trump. I say there's going to be, in a second term of Trump, probably another 2 appointments coming for SCOTUS. There will probably be 2 resignations or removals of two jurists from the Supreme Court. Look at all the federal appeals court appointments that Trump has made. That's where the biggest bang for our buck so far is.
Absolutely.
Which is why we got to keep the dude. I don't agree with everything that he does. We got to keep him.
I agree.
Absolutely. One of the biggest gifts Obama did, because Hillary was going to be elected, was not fill those seats in federal courts. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't even have the opportunity to fill 1 or 2 seats in the Ninth Circus. Didn't he put 2 people into the Ninth Circus now?
Yes. Yes, and they came out with a recent ruling which did not go left. One of the massive reasons for that is because of the replacement jurists in the 9th.
Wow.
It's happening already. We're seeing results already. I got a final article. I don't want to keep you guys up too late because it's almost 1 o'clock where the hell you guys are right now. I got a final article. This is a specific point that a guy that I know who's writing for, what is this? Tue Cops. TueCops.com. Guy's name is Matt Silvey. And he says this, and I want your opinion, your thoughts on this. He says the gun control endgame, a federal police force. Law enforcement has been under a microscope and under attack for going on a decade now. Initially, aside from fringe groups like Cop Block, that attack was just being led by those on the political left. Coincidentally, those are the same politicians who are heavily pushing gun control. Could it be, by the way, Cop Block is sponsored, and they say they're a grassroots organization? Bullshit. They're Bloomberg and Soros. Could it be they have something in mind as their end game? Could that end game be a single national police force they can send out to take our guns because the local cops have proven that they will not? Is this a valid argument? Is this a valid thought? Or is this guy a nut? Because I know Matt. He just retired. I had him into my show here. And he says he believes the end game for this may be a federal force where no one can say no.
I think that's what they want.
They were talking about doing a federal force back when I was in the military. I was military police in the late 70s, and they were talking about doing a federal one-unit force back then. It's just never come to fruition. I don't think he's a loony. I just think that he has a valid argument that has not come to fruition.
Well, I found it interesting during my time in federal service and the different agencies I worked with. They were talking about it in the 80s. I remember that when California passed, I think it was under Gray Davis, if memory serves, who was the governor back then. And he hadn't been, there was no Schwarzenegger yet. They got the first gun law on assault weapons, an assault weapons ban, quote unquote. And I remember laughing about it, saying that'll never happen in my state. And just anyways, in comes Bill Clinton, the federal assault weapons ban. The ridiculousness of that, and they keep trying to push for that. And they always have. But I remember back in the 70s, they were pushing for the 38 Saturday night specials to be not allowed to be sold, but mostly women carried them. So, of course, it went down in defeat. It's strategically what they keep doing, and they misclassify weapons. But, yeah, no, the federal police force, there was a Captain Eason while we were at 29 Palms who took a poll of the Marines, and it was for his master's thesis, if memory serves. And we all answered, would you take guns from American citizens? The good part was like 90% said no, constitutionally it's not allowed. The scary part is you had 10% of Marine military policemen say yes.
You just bigfooted my last and final question. I've been speaking to a lot of administrators and a lot of people that have just recently retired from my department and other departments. One of the primary questions I would ask people after they're retired is, what are the temper of the times right now out on the street in terms of, especially in lieu of what just recently occurred in Virginia? If you got an order to go into someone's house who is a law-abiding American citizen, absent any other circumstance where you suspect that there's possession of a proscribed firearm under a new law, would you go in and carry that out? And the bulk of the people that were talking to me were saying that, you know what? Yeah, I would not be doing that. There would not be any confiscations taking place. So I'm curious now, and Kate, I called you back, and I'm curious, that's the view of law enforcement. What do you think is the view in the military aspect. You covered the Marines, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts or insight with regard to the National Guard or any military elements like that. Okay. I guess people have run out of time. I think that's a perfect time to say this. Kate and Kaiser, I really appreciate your being here. This has been one very strange show tonight. And with that, I say this.
If the bills go through as proposed.
Oh, wait. No, I can't do that. We have to do that. And this. Wow. I've had some crazy shows before. This has been one of them. So, wow. Technology has not been cooperating today, so I'll just have to do this as we go away.
Monsieur! Es un We'll meet again. Don't know when, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Strange show, strange time. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Kaiser. I'll be back next Tuesday with Mike Fitzpatrick. Mike Fitzpatrick is a digital security expert, and he'll be here to talk about all sorts of things digital. And then I will have a candidate for California Assembly on next Thursday night. Have a great weekend. And I tell you what, if you're on the radio or you have your own radio show, please, God, make it better than this one. Good night, everybody.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.